Let's just keep it informal and no hi, hello, and all of those stuff we need to do. I mean, you can just start randomly. And in fact, if it is posted, if you're really posting it, let it be as random as this, right? You're just
True.
starting because that's the nature. Like people actually like to hear such random stuff. Like दो
Uh-huh.
लोग बात कर रहे हैं कि चलो eavesdrop कर what do you call eavesdrop, right? That's the term.
Yeah.
कि है ना कि देखते क्या बोल रहे हैं, ठीक है.
As long
So
as
that's
it's eavesdropping only.
yes, yes,
And
yes,
especially
absolutely.
for married men like us, it should not actually be eavesdropping also. If we drop our
Absolutely.
eaves, then we end up in
So
trouble.
that's where I get my words into how to be politically correct. So yeah, so I mean the best example is in a faculty launch. You go there, others are speaking. Somehow you want to you get a feeling क्या बात कर रहे हैं. So let's yeah, so that's there. तो वो
Yeah, in
बात
fact,
करते हैं. Yeah,
concentration is one of those big things, right? When you need to, and what's his name? Mihaly, whatever, the guy
yeah.
who
The
talked about
flow,
flow.
the flow.
Uh, so
Yeah.
his entire concept of flow works on that, right? When you're concentrated on something and your focus is on that, you will ignore. If your focus is not on that thing, all surrounding sounds, everything, someone coughing also starts irritating you. You start
Yes. So
getting irritated on that. In fact, yesterday on Twitter, there was this one guy who had posted research in economics, where they were talking about how having a long name, right, uh, hampers people's career options, especially academics, hampers their career options, hampers their ability to actually get into a doctoral course, hampers their ability to get published, hampers their ability to get cited also. Somebody actually commented on that thread saying that it also reflects in citation, because that person who commented, he had a very long surname. So I had added to his thing saying that Mihaly, whatever, him getting citations for his flow theory, that seems to be an odd situation here, because he is anyway, in spite of unpronounceable surname. I mean, not an unpronounceable, but not an easily pronounceable surname. He still gets so many citations, and
yes, but I guess for him, what is also worked perhaps is because his work. So
true,
he didn't get cited in academic journals per se to start with.
true,
His book was what broke ground. I mean, it was
yes,
so influential of that time. It was written quite some time back, right? So uh, that I think got him through.
true,
One thing, and second, also for his kind of name. I mean, his name specifically, even if you cannot pronounce, but if you see the name,
yeah.
the spelling is such, it will stick to your mind
True.
that yes, is
In
that
fact,
person, right?
I added a comment to what I had added, saying that I actually Googled the name because I didn't want to get it wrong. And I don't think I can write that spelling without, just like Schwarzenegger. I don't think I can write Schwarzenegger's spelling, Arnold Schwarzenegger's
Yeah, yeah,
spelling
absolutely.
without checking.
Thank you.
Actually,
So,
since you brought that up, I was thinking, since we had sort of planned to talk somewhere about money, and you
mhm,
mentioned about books, let's
yes.
maybe think in those terms, um, about spending money to buy books, right?
Mhm.
There was a time when I was a voracious reader, right? And my pockets were not as voracious, I would say. So, I used to rely a lot on libraries, right? So school libraries, college libraries. The only time that I actually spent time in my library was to go issue a book that I
Mm.
would read, right? And it was almost never academic books that I was issuing. Academic books
Absolutely.
were
Yes.
meant for end of the term, but
Yeah.
so, and Delhi had this culture of secondhand books. You'd always find
Mhm.
some place or
Yes.
the other where you could buy secondhand books, and those tended to be cheap. So that has been my experience. I have spent money, but been careful about how much I spend. as far as spending it on books are concerned. What's
Mm,
your
mm.
experience been?
Uh, when it comes to books, yes, I also have been reading, and I do read still. But somehow, the money that I spend on books has come down. Where I come from, Agartala, the second-hand book culture was not there. Right, either we buy it or we borrow it. Okay,
Okay.
stealing was not an option. So, so yeah, beg and borrow. That are the two things. And usually people are okay with giving books, right? If provided they have read it.
True.
So that's how it always has been for me. From libraries, I didn't. Okay, for me, libraries were always about academic. This one, I did not do much of those kind of. The other readings, I did not really go to library to issue books. Library for me was to go and have my lonely time and to issue academic books. That was what it is. But what has happened is that I have downloaded a lot of books. Right, that's something may not be politically correct, but yes, I have downloaded a lot of books and I've read that, and so I got it Kindle also. So sometimes I do buy books. I mean, if it's very recent, Kindle version, not the this one, Kindle version. On if it's an old book and if I get it somewhere, most probably I even download it. So that's it. But not really academic books. The books, I mean, which are like classics, and I
True.
just want to read those kind of books. I usually download the recent ones. If I so one thing is that I am not someone who will read up recent books so much. Unless I get that word of mouth recommendations from everywhere that okay, this is a book that you should read, till that time I had not read. So that's for me. And I'm very picky about the books that I choose, because one habit that I have is which is not really good. I mean, I would not really suggest things. So I think many of us might have that. Once you start reading, once I take up a book, I need to finish it. And even if it's like after 10 pages, I know this is not worth the time. I somehow need to finish it. Right. So this has eaten up a lot of my time when it comes to books. So that's why now I've become more cautious as to which book I'm going to pick up. Right. So that's a thing. I do buy books from airports. That's one habit. Somehow I do get just like airport. So somehow I find it cool to buy books from airport because yeah, somehow it eats up the time I get to read. I mean, what else to do when I have to like 3 4 hours waiting?
True.
So that's where one book I buy. Uh, or else like a book which is something that I really really want to read, and if I'm not getting it online or anywhere else, that's the time I order online. So that has been my way of reading books, and that's so when it comes to money, I think yeah, when it comes to books, I don't think I've spent much in terms of buying it. I mean, academics, yes, academic books many times we had to buy, but beyond the other kind of reading is mostly about borrowing and getting it online and all of the stuff.
In fact,
That
my
is.
experience with Kindle has been such that I have bought a lot of books. My kids, they read a lot on Kindle, but I have never been able to go beyond a few pages of a book that I have downloaded on Kindle. I just not been able to
Mm,
move past. Bought a Kindle before my kids could start reading, but the idea was that, oh, this I can have an entire library on that small device, and then anywhere I am, I can just open the Kindle and start reading. But I've just not been able to transcend that digital barrier. So I am a hoarder as far as books are concerned. Any book that I can find online, um, in whatever form, right? I keep the PDF, but I have never been able
mm,
to refer to those PDFs. I've never been able to read a book on a screen, and that's a problem. Actually, what happens is when I find it on the screen, then I'm a lot more focused. I don't go word by word, line by line, paragraph by paragraph, page by page. I skip to sections because I can do a control F, go to whatever section I'm looking for in that book, in whatever form. I mean, that's more for academic and non-fiction. I mean, non-fiction type of books. But with fiction, you need to actually go through. And when you said uh, sometimes you realize at the end of 10 pages that you don't want to read that book, my experience has been there have been some books that I have felt tortured reading the first one or two paragraphs. Sorry, chapters, But after that, the book has hooked me in such a way that I haven't been able to leave it until I uh, complete. Yeah, so yeah, money on books. Uh,
Yes, so that's there. So I mean, books for me, I like even if it's the I have regretted reading this a book, but somehow I feel it's an injustice if I don't finish it, right? So somehow in my mind is there like I have to tick. Okay, this is a book I've read, so tick. So
uh-huh.
that's where I somehow, and I don't think it's a good habit. I think you need to be more judicious with our time, right? And this
True.
is something. I mean, it's okay to not read a complete book. I now I'm this is something I've started to realize, and hopefully I will be able to do it more often. So off late is not that I've also left books. So one of uh, a book that I recently took of a very one of my favorite authors. This actually I left it in Sonipat. Um, I just could not finish it, and I had read his books before. He writes about mythology, history, and all of this stuff. Uh, I loved his books. Like his books are like page turners. Book that I took in hand, I just could not finish it. I did went till half. It was a struggle. It was like literally a struggle with the hope that okay, gradually it will become better because I had read his work before, but it just didn't finish. So I don't remember. So any fiction book which has given me that much of torture than this one. So I just had to leave it. And this is a book I had bought, by the way. This is a book I
Uh,
had bought because he's a favorite author of mine, one of the favorite authors. So I feel like I should buy. So, and it was also a recent one in a way.
okay.
So this was one book which I did not rely on recommendation because I knew the author. I knew
Mhm.
he's very good with this. So I just bought it.
So,
Or else, like if it's something into unknown territory, I need to know from people that yes, there's something worth investing time and money.
mhm.
in.
So for
That's
me, one of those books which I remember having been a little tortured reading was it's supposed to be a classic, To Kill a Mockingbird, a must-read type of book.
Ernest
I
Hemingway.
Yeah, I
Ernest
started.
Hemingway.
Is it Ernest Hemingway, To Kill a Mockingbird? I don't remember actually. I
Yeah,
mean, it,
I guess.
yeah. I mean, we can
Yeah.
check right now
Mm-hmm.
also.
No, it's by Harper Lee. Sorry.
Yeah, Harper Lee, Harper Lee. Yes.
Yeah.
So now this book was was written in a very different way. I enjoyed reading a lot of crime and thrillers and comedies. Right
Mm,
now, this book was written in a very different way. The language was also, I mean, it was not difficult or anything, but then the way the story was woven, it came out a little uncomfortable to read. But I said, no, this is a book that one should have read. So let's keep reading. Let's keep reading. But I completed it, and I, at the end, felt that okay, yeah, this was a nice book. I might not have been able to unravel all the threads in the story, but yes, I have read it. I've sort of understood. I understand what the overall book was. But that is one book I still don't remember as such. Most of the other
mm,
books that I've read, I remember something or the other. So, two books I keep recommending to anyone and everyone:
mm.
Catch 22 and
Okay.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. These
Oh.
are two books that I read during either school time or college time.
Mm-hmm.
And these were books that I actually would, I mean, as they say, laugh out loud while reading.
Mm,
Right? I mean, you just cannot control that impulsive laughter that comes out when you're reading a book like that. So utterly awesome. The quality of the humor maybe may not be of the standard of a PG Woodhouse or something. I mean, I don't know. There might be different camps on that, but
mm.
I've enjoyed PG Woodhouse a lot. I've read maybe almost all of them. That's what I used school and college libraries for. Uh, but I don't remember all of those stories, but Catch 22 and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So I
Nice.
very close to my heart those books, and trust me, I could again read those books now. It's been quite a few years. I can again sit down and read those books if I am able to make the time.
Done. I have two recommendations and I'm going to follow that up
Definitely.
for
So,
sure.
in fact, if you want another recommendation, some a book which often comes up in political debate and stuff is 1984, George Orwell.
Okay.
So it is a very good book. It is funny also, but the problem is I never actually ended up reading it at that time when I used to have a lot of free time. But
Mhm.
I started reading it some time ago. Um, I think almost a year ago, I started reading it. And while I was enjoying it, there were a lot of other things that were taking up my time. So I first started reading it on one of those cheap copy secondhand books. But the problem was because now I don't read novels so much, I ended up not getting that satisfaction reading from a book like that. So then I bought I mean, my kids love going to home bookstore. They don't buy sensible stuff. They buy all sorts of nonsense, but then they like going to home bookstore, right? So I picked up a good copy of 1984 from there. Start Started reading it again, and I still have my bookmark kept there, but it's on my shelf. I haven't been able to move on just because there are other easier forms of entertainment which are there.
Yeah, it's true.
In fact, I think
Nice.
that's another thing, right? Um, During at the time when I was a kid, and I don't know if yeah, for you also, it was this is more a very recent phenomena. The ease with which video content is available and the I mean the lack of barriers, right? At our time, I mean, when I was growing up, 1991, cable started coming. I mean, cable came to India, right? That was the time when, after Gulf War, you started having 24-hour or almost 24-hour programming on TV. But
Mhm.
still, for that, you still needed to switch on the TV, put a, I mean, start the remote, I mean, put on the
And TV
plug,
was
start the
not
remote.
there at every home, right? In those days, it was.
Well, yes, I had shifted to Delhi by that time. Before 87, yeah, before 89, actually. We did
Mhm.
not have a TV, and we were in a remote place where you needed a
Mhm.
mile-high antenna even to get Doordarshan.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I remember. Yes, we had that.
and those were the
Yeah.
times when Star Trek used to come on TV, and people used
Mm.
to my neighbors used to actually sit and watch Star Trek and stuff. And I was like, what nonsense is this? Why should anyone sit in front of a thing which doesn't give you a clear picture and things? And I used to play around in nature, right?
Mm.
I was in a very remote place in Assam during those
Okay.
years. Right? But after we came to Delhi, we came in around 89, 91. Gulf War happened, and
Mm.
uh, Doordarshan, Doordarshan's limited offering changed to what you get in these days also, almost 24 hours.
Oh
CNN
yeah.
came in, and then all the other cable channels came in. So you had more or less constant entertainment. But still, I'd say that time also, you still had to switch on the TV, and it was one central thing in the house. If you were watching something, others could not watch that, right? So you had to compromise. In
Mhm.
that situation, reading, I mean, a book was always a very personal space that one could find out, right? And you could lie down on your bed, on your couch, or wherever, and you get into that world of the book, right? And good books tend to do that. They put you into that Mihaly's flow situation, right?
So
So,
they
but
take
these
you to
days,
that world. That's
true.
the best part is the world. Yeah.
Exactly. And nowadays, because you have your phone always around, and what Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever is always just a swipe away, right? So a swipe or a tap away, and you're uh, hooked on. People don't have that drive to read these days, and I somehow am also suffering from that. So I need to take time out to actually read a book, and I have done that at times, but yeah, now I will one of these days take out time for 1984.
Any books on money that you have read recently
Ah,
or anything
well,
you
I
remember?
have actually not been a self-help type of person, though I did read one book on money, which was Rich Dad Poor Dad, Guy
Hmm.
Kawasaki.
Makes sense. Yes.
So now,
Hmm.
while there are, I mean, the way I said in a slightly condescending way about self-help books, while I agree that self-help books also have a lot of value, I just have that l- little bias, right? But then the thing is, I also recognize that it is a bias.
Hmm.
It actually is very useful content for a lot of people who might not be thinking that, and maybe I'm also not thinking, and it might help me to read a self-help book which points me to the right direction, right? But just that
Hmm.
ego or bias or whatever you'd like to call it, and I've never actually gone to that. I liked guys Kawasaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. There were some very sensible things in that. In fact, one of
Hmm.
my students recently recommended Psychology of Money, and so now,
I've read. I've read
okay,
that.
you read it. How is the book? Is it worth
Excellent. Yes.
150,
Yes.
200 bucks?
Yes.
Because
Yes. Yes.
now that's again a problem, right? When I'm
You
standing
can
at,
borrow it from me. I again, this is a book I bought because
okay,
this is highly recommended. I wanted to keep it with me,
okay,
and this I have with me,
ah,
so you can actually borrow it from me. It's a
okay,
hard book, so I bought it. So, Rich Dad Poor Dad, yes, obviously number one in the list. I would say Psychology of Money. There's another very good book, and which has been highly recommended around, is The Richest Man in Babylon.
okay,
Okay, I'm forgetting the name of the author writer, but it's a very cult sort of book in that space.
okay.
Okay,
Let
uh,
me note that down.
I also did Think and Grow Rich,
Uh-huh.
but I had not put that in the category of book on money, though it tells a lot about how to get rich, but it's more about mindset. It comes in the proper
Mhm.
self-help category, the Think and Grow Rich, but. um Richest Man in Babylon, Psychology of Money, or Rich Dad Poor Dad. These are more practical insights, right?
True,
These are like workable insights. It's
true.
not something that you just work on your mind. It's actually things, technique that you can do with your money, with
Yes,
which will give you some
true,
tangible results
true.
at some point in time, right? So. These three books, I have read few more, but these three books I think have stayed with me. This has stayed with me, and the way I look at money right now and the way I used to look at money say 5 years or even 10 years back, it was different. It's very different right now. Okay,
Okay,
and I want to talk to you more on this, like how do you, so irrespective of, so I'm sure our sources might be different, our reference points might be different, but we have our own understanding of this concept, right?
true.
So I'd like you to first start with. So, what is your understanding of money right now? That's one. And second, whatever your understanding is right now, how did this evolve over time? Like starting from the first time you had started to earn your first buck, like whenever that time is, and right now, is there any drastic
Okay.
difference or noticeable difference, or how is this journey been?
So for me, money, something I keep telling my kids also, and so for me, I keep bringing reference to of my kids because all the things I say to my kids, they are supposed to be all the right things, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah,
so therefore that's my filter, and when I
yeah, absolutely.
use that to say to anyone else, I'm saying that the sensible thought, as far as money is concerned, is that money is definitely very important, right? But I have never been a dollar chaser, whatever one needs to call that. I've never been very eager about earning a lot of money. Somehow, I mean, I've had times when I have changed jobs for money. I have expected increments and things like that. But and I have made investments also thinking in terms of getting that return. Right? But I would say most of the time it has come also because I haven't chased it. Right? Money is important. Without enough money, one has a lot of roadblocks that one would face, and there's enough and more problems. But money should not be the only priority in life, is what I keep telling my kids also. And my Elder daughter is very, and so to give you an example, both my daughters, when they go into a shop and they have these pangs of wanting to buy something, they still always look at the price tag, right? So even though we rarely refuse many of the things that they ask for, but still they have been given that thing that you need. I mean, does it make sense, right? So
Yes, absolutely.
my younger kid who's 6, she, and it's been maybe 3 4 years that she's learned to look at price tags, and she, earlier she did not understand whether 200 was a lot, or whether 500 is a lot, or whether 100 is a lot. But now she looks at things and she says, Papa, this costs 80 rupees for a packet of chips. No, I don't think it's worth it. And she'll keep it back. Right? Though there will be times when I will feel that, okay, she she took that sensible decision. I should compensate, and I should not take away the pleasure of having maybe, so kettle chips, right? Kettle chips are much more tastier than the Lay's chips that we tend to get, right? And it's not something that we buy normally. It's always easier to buy a 20 rupee pack of Lay's, one because of availability and second because
Mm.
of cost. But I I buy kettle chips for them once in a while as a treat, so that one, they're not exposed. I mean, it does not become routine to them, but also they understand the value that yes, this is okay as maybe an indulgence, but it's definitely not worth spending 50 or 80 rupees for a packet of chips. So that's how me and my wife, we've been uh, constantly giving them that um, sense of value, right? So for me, again, money is also about value. I might not think twice about spending a few thousands on something, um, just because it has value. So I think so somewhere I'm now um, crystallizing on that thought of money. Money is important, but then money is actually a transfer of value, right? So it is just the medium for transfer of value. What is there in my account, I am giving to someone, and I don't mind that going out as long as it's for value. If it is going for something that is not of value, then I would feel bad after that purchase. I don't know. I've rambled a lot on that.
No,
What about you?
absolutely makes
What
sense.
has your
Yeah.
experience been with money?
So again, this is like an evolved understanding right now, and again, this evolution is going on. It's nothing like this is something I've come to a conclusion or not. But the way I look at money right now, so see, money for me is an idea, it's a concept. Okay, for me, it's an idea or a concept. It has this manifestation in say rupee, dollar, currency notes, and all of those. These are manifestations of this, and I'll come to this later. But it's at the very core, it's an idea. Okay, and why is this idea or this concept important? Because it allows us to have a seamless flow of transactions, because you may not have everything in the world and I may not have everything in the world. You might have something and I might have something, but we might require all of these things to live a comfortable life, right? Just the barter system, the way it started, right? So you have something, I have something, both of us need both of these things, right? Something that you have I also need, and something that I have you also need. So how do we ensure that there's a fair transaction between us? That's where that idea of money comes in, right? That it allows that fair transaction without quarreling, without any scope of what do you call it? Without any scope of
Ambiguity.
um, ambiguity, right? That's the term. Without any scope of ambiguity. I mean, we know. I mean, if I say it's a 10 rupee thing, it is a 10 rupee thing. It's number, right? So it just takes away that scope of ambiguity of subjectivity, right? It's very
Sure.
objective. So, but the second part of this is that it is an idea, it is a concept, that's fine. But it comes to, or people who accumulate that, it's not just important to understand the concept and the idea. Understanding is important, but you also have to have the competence to act on that understanding. Okay, so when you talk of concept, like any concept, for example, thermodynamics, okay, there's a concept around it, and the better you understand, the better you are at this, right? So just like this, money is also a concept, and each of us have our own understanding, but the more you understand it, the better you understand it, you are more likely to have a good time with money. But I may have a good understanding, but if I do not have the competence or the willingness to act on that understanding, it will not serve me any good, right? I may know that, for example, if I need more money, I need to reach out to more people and add value to a lot more people. Okay, that is my understanding, and that's how people become rich. I mean, any business is about, so what is scaling up? It's about adding value to more number of people, right? The more value you can add, the better you get, right? Either to 100 people add value of 1,000 rupees, or to reach out to 1,000 people and add value of 100 rupees. Either way it works, but you have to
Yeah.
add value. But what happens if I have this understanding, that's fine, but if I don't have the competence to do it, okay, or say the willingness to do it, it doesn't work for me. Okay, so I see money in two layers. One is an understanding. You have to understand the concept of money. It's a concept. You have to understand it. Second is you have to have the competence and willingness to act on it. Okay, if you do that, that's when all the tangible manifestations of money. Okay, and money is not just about the currency notes; it's also the real estate that you have bought. Okay, that's also a manifestation of money. Okay, some say antique item which is there and which is valued a lot. That is also a manifestation of money. You might not cash it; it's not liquid, yes, but it's a manifestation of money. Right? If you want, you can sell it and you can get some money, right? So I think money, and that's how all the rich people, they manifest money in different forms. The stocks that they have, okay, paperless that we call it, all the billionaires, it's not that they have in their account. They have this as an idea that yes, I'm a billionaire because I have this much worth of shares or stocks, right? It's just a concept. It's just an idea. Uh, Now, that's where I think my understanding right now of money is that it's a concept, it's an understanding. You have to have the competence to do it. The more competence you have and the more you act on it, you will accumulate more in different forms. It's not just about what you have in your bank account, in different forms, in forms of, say, okay, so one more thing is that money is also sometimes very, what I call, so there's the concept of liquid money and non-liquid money, right? So I mean, something that we can just sell and get money, get that amount is liquid, and something that will have a long, I'll have to wait for long, right? So for example, if I'm a billionaire, it's not that today I can sell all the shares and get my $1 billion.
Yeah.
The moment I
As soon
start
as you
doing it,
start selling.
automatically it will go
Yeah.
down, right? So that's how it works, right? So even that is also a manifestation, right? So it's not everything that you'll get is has to be tangible, and right now it has to be liquid. So but again, that understanding is going to be valuable to me only and only when I have the gumption and the willingness and the volition to act on it, or have the competence to it. If I don't have competence, two things: either I'll not earn money, or I'll have to have the competence if I have to earn more money. Just take this medium, for example,
Mhm.
content. Okay, content is a big thing now. Thanks to the internet has just proliferated the kind of business. It has just disrupted the business models around the world, right? And it's just the power of the connectivity and the way it has brought people closer. Okay, social media is one abstraction over internet. Our say this communication that you're having through a Teams, Zoom, Google Meet, it's just an abstraction of what over internet, right? I mean, whatever internet has enabled this, the social media, the video conferencing, all these platforms, these are just abstractions over it, which is making it much more easier for us. So basically, the business models are getting completely disrupted because of this. So when I have an understanding of this, and I also know the way content has revolutionizing lives. I mean, I know of so many stories of people coming from tier three cities, rural India, just with a small mobile a smartphone, which can just shoot videos of not great quality, and today they're earning like six figures, seven figures, right? Much more than what people from like top institutes working, which they take suppose say 8-10 years to earn. They're doing it right now at the age of 10, 2025. That's what the internet has done. And also, so this, I know this. For example, I know this, but the thing is that am I doing this? No, I'm not doing this. The question is why. Maybe I don't have the competence or I don't have the willingness, either of it. But then if I want that concept, if I want more money, I'll have to act on that. Okay, so so this is my understanding of money, right? It's a concept. You have to have the understanding of it, but this understanding is of no value if you don't act on it, right? The more you want to understand, you will understand. You will look around people, you look around how they are creating wealth for themselves, how they're creating wealth for others, but it will not add any value to me unless I do start doing something on it. Okay. Now again, that's also a choice, and I don't see it from a thing like, okay, you're not earning more, so you're not competent enough. I don't look at it that way. I think it's more about someone's volition. It's like whether you really want to play that game or not. How much is enough? Right? It is an individual decision that all of us need to take. Okay, but then like if you want more and you're not getting it, so either of it, either you don't understand the concept or you're not competent enough for it. So I keep it this way. This is my understanding of it.
In fact, I think since you spoke about money and you mentioned about various forms, there's one book that I would recommend, which is
Hmm.
Rogoff's Curse of Cash. It is
Okay.
a book that came out in 2016, 15 or 16, I guess, just before demonetization happened. And that was one book that did put forward this idea of demonetization, right? And but then the entire focus of the book is on cash, right? It looks at how cash has the history of cash, how we changed from barter system to currency and stuff. Um, Now, cash being one form of money, it's still just one form, right? Somewhere our entire conceptualization of money tends to still reflect liquid cash, right? Most of the times, even if some, who do we tend to um, visualize as someone rich? Someone who's actually spending the money, someone who's got
Hmm.
lots of money in investments in the, sorry, in their bank accounts, is not usually the visualization that we have of a rich
Hmm.
person, right? A
Yes.
rich person, irrespective of how those wads of cash came in, we still visualize a rich person as someone with wads of cash, right? A
Yes.
card is, whether you have a limit of what 50,000 or you have a limit of 10 lakhs, all the cards, they almost look the same, right?
Yeah.
So now that visualization also of someone's worth, as somebody might say, that also comes out through this form of cash. And I mean, all my research in the area of money and currency and cash and exchange has sort of talks about the fact that the digital age and the internet and the mobile are all leading to digitalization of cash, but of money. But then still, I think hard cash still talks.
Hmm.
Right.
True, true, absolutely. So yeah, so again, that's where I think my point on understanding comes in. The way right now the society, we in general, we perceive someone to be rich is the way a person manifests that. I mean, if you get down from say BMW or Mercedes, you are perceived to be rich, that you're perceived to be rich. You might be broken. You might be $100,000 in debt, right?
True.
It can be that, right? And if you're in debt of that amount, and you cannot be essentially rich, and if you don't have, so you can be in debt, you can be rich, but I'm saying if your net worth is in negative, basically that's my point. You're not really rich, right? You
True.
have much more liabilities than your assets. But just because you have a good luxurious car, the society perceives the person to be rich. Okay, and that's where the understanding with money comes in, right? And that's why I feel, because I feel in general that understanding what money really is. It's not about the car that we own. It's not about the home that we possess. It's not about the clothes that we wear. It's not about the material possessions that we have. It's much beyond that. These all are manifestations of the money that we might have or we might not have. I mean, might not have means we might be borrowed money, right? It can be even that, right? But I'm saying these are manifestations. True rich, true wealth is something that most people will not even know. I mean, there are so many people that will not even show how rich they are, right? And there's so many around us. The thing is that since as a society, if we don't understand it, right, we have wrong role models, right? We have very wrong role models. And since we have wrong role models, we act accordingly to to be somewhere like them. And when you do that, we go even in more like say debt, or we just go to the opposite direction of, rather than becoming wealthy, we just get into the manifestations of it, that game. Till the moment you can pull it off, it's fine. When it cannot do it, it's just over, game over, right?
The
So you
house
don't
of
create wealth,
cards.
you don't understand it, and you're not building the competence for it, because the focus is on manifestation. You're not building, you're not upskilling yourself, you're not developing your competences to really earn the money, right? So so that's the reason. I mean, you've brought a very good point and exactly connecting to my thing. Since the manifestation is the main thing right now in the society, so there's much less focus on really understanding what it is. Yeah.
True. And in fact, manifestation is usually seen in how you're spending that money also, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
as you mentioned, it is the money is sometimes not there in your account, but still you're spending, right? So you're going on a overdraft, so to say, on yourself, on your income. um, but one thing that I want to sort of bring up here is our parents, my parents at least, your parents are still working. My parents, they were, I mean, and my in-laws, they were government servants, right? So
Yes.
they had, they did not need to have investments which would keep continuing to pay them at a time when they stop being part of the active workforce.
Yeah.
So they ended up having pensions which were which played that role, and
Like that, yeah.
pensions these days tend to be comfortable enough for someone at their age to survive and be happy, actually be
Yes.
comfortable, more than comfortable.
Yes.
But for people like us, our generation, and your generation and future generations and stuff, uh, one needs to actually, and that is where that rich guy, rich dad, poor dad thing comes back to my mind, which is that you need to have streams of income, right? This it is, this world is no longer one of having of having one stream of income, right? You need to have multiple streams of income, or at least you need to build multiple streams of income. You
Yes.
might not start, I mean, I don't have multiple streams of income as of now, but my effort is that I look for opportunities, I look for things where I can possibly in the next 5-10 years or whatever build up streams
Yes.
for income, so that later on, once I am not in the active workforce, I have something that continues to sort of take care. People tend to rely on things like rental income and stuff, but those are also not without their fair share of complications. It's not always the easiest form. And
Yes.
my thought about investments um, is that if, I mean, I would look for opportunities where maybe instead of giving a seed money to an investor who has the capability of raising money from elsewhere also, I would actually prefer that I give money to maybe a rickshaw puller and tell him, can can you sort of gather some more money and get an e-rickshaw, let's say, so that you're able to do more rides and you're able to make more money. Sort of empower people at the grassroots than put investments in startups where people already have that competence of being able to raise much more. And it's not that I'm a Rakesh Jhunjhunwala who can invest, um, or Warren Buffett, Buffett or whatever he's called, who invests lakhs and crores in a budget, in a business, right? So
Yeah.
somewhere I think when we, even as middle class people, when we also think in terms of investments, we should also start building um, multiple revenue streams, right?
Yes.
And in fact, a friend of mine, I don't know if I've told you this example earlier also, a friend of mine tells me about another friend, right, who was a colleague who, while working in one of the consulting firms, he started a shoe store in a mall, right?
Okay.
So the first shoe store he started as a franchisee of some company.
Okay.
Now, from that, he started earning a decent income, a secondary income source. What he did is, after that, he took up another shop on rent in the same mall, and that was at a slightly better location. Now, what he did with that store was that he built the entire store. He got the entire store created, and then he created walls, right, and sections on walls in which he was now giving space on that wall to other brands, right? And one of them was the one whose franchisee had already taken. So at one place, he was actually giving out money as a franchisee. At the other place, he was charging those brands, right? That you can display your stuff on my wall, but you pay me rent for that. And that, I think, was a very, I mean, it's an, because of the sheer logic and the sense in that idea, I keep quoting that a lot of times. And I think that's how one should think, right? Maybe you make an investment where you're spending money to develop it, and maybe you don't earn so much out of it, but then get learnings from that to create another income stream where you are then able to skim the cream.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's where, I mean, as you talked of your friend, I think he had that understanding and he also had the competence to work on it, and that's how it came in, right? And also, like as you're talking of investing, I think so. So this investing, why? So if you look at the investing, at least from the Indian context, it was not so prominent. Even say 10, 15 years back, investing was not a thing. The way we talk about it right now, the kind of awareness that we have right now, right? So why is it so? I mean, why has investing become so mainstream right now, and why is it such a necessity right now? This is a question that I've been quite a lot delving on. One thing that I find is one thing that's, again, this is something a work in progress. The understanding is this is a work in progress, but what I think is one of the reasons why investing has become so mainstream are two reasons basically. One, the financial markets, the way the financial markets have evolved, okay, the sophistication, the penetration the markets have been, and also the markets are now much more tested over time. So when something starts, you have much more distrust, especially when you have to put in money. The markets have almost never passed that test around the world, right? And if you see, if any developing economy and developed economy, it's really the financial markets. These are very highly developed and sophisticated. In those places, you'll see people creating a lot of wealth. Okay, not just for themselves, but for a lot of people in their community as well. So that's one, markets, and we can discuss much more in detail also. The second thing is, especially for our Indian context, I see is that, see, resources are always limited. Okay, resources are always limited, but then uh, people who are supposed to share these resources, that number is increasing. Okay, now when that number is increasing, competent people who can actually have a much more larger share of that resource base, that is also increasing, right? Now, when you have a limited resource, but more competent people coming in the workforce to take their largest share, right? What is happening is that there will be a large majority will be on the sideline, will be sidelined on the fringe, right? What happens to them? What happens to them, right? Now, coming back to that government pension thing, and that's where I'm connecting it. Previously, uh, people, competent people were much less, resources were limited, but then people who had that competence to take that fair share were also much less. So the government or the system was able to provide those kind of facilities, say pension, even when you don't work, you can just go on. You can get it, right? You don't think of anything else, right? Because the number of competent people were much less. Today it's very different. Today the resources are limited. it's a mammoth proportionate growth of population, more competent people coming into the system, right? Education, and that is penetrated a lot. Now the problem with government or the system or society as such is that they cannot just give free meals to everyone right now, right? Or to just a small section of people. They have to think of many, almost everyone right now, right? Because the competent people will anyway be fine, but the people who are being sidelined, their number is increasing, and when their numbers increase, they will gradually have a voice and force which can topple any society. I'm not just saying government, but any society. So now what the government has to do is that now the competent base, the government has to allow, the society has to allow that competent base to rely on their competence to get the fair share. Okay. And then when they get the fair share, government will take some money from that through taxes or whatever other means, and that will be sourced to the people on the sidelines. Okay. Because now again, the internet and everything, all this coming around, those people on the sideline also have a voice now, and that voice cannot be ignored. 20 years back this was not so, right? So I think that since that system, the society, the social structures have changed, have been shifting. Okay, more competent people coming into the system, resources are still limited, but then everyone has a voice right now. All of this has just changed the entire dynamics of the how society used to run. Okay, that's the reason why we do not have pension by default. Any government job, any private job, right? You have to actually invest to get the pension, right? You have to start from an investing point of view. Okay, you want more pension, you invest more. If you invest less, it's okay, right? You invest less. As simple as that. You want multiple streams of income, you have that opportunity right now. You can sit like this, you need a laptop, you need a phone, and you can just basically do it. You can have multiple streams of income. Okay, so the competent base will always have the resources, but a large majority will not have this competence, will not even if they have the access, even if they have the understanding, they will not have the competence. Competence might be a secondary thing. Most will not have, have the understanding, and this will not change even in the next 20, 30 years. That majority have to be taken care of, right?
True.
And so going forward, I see a lot more. So, and okay, one more thing is that people think, and this is understanding the society, that government takes money only from the middle class through taxes, and that's the how to look at it. No, right? They take money from everyone through indirect taxes, right?
True.
Even buying is a salt, sugar, pen, you are paying indirect tax. It's money is being taken from everyone, right? Because otherwise, just direct taxes will not be able to help, or any government of any country to create what you call proper social plans or social safety nets, right? Uh, uh, Countries like Canada, and there are a lot of socialist countries in Europe, where people really don't need to worry till still now for their pension for their old age, because the government is going to take care. Medical is still free, and pension and everything is there. Like even if you're not working, there's unemployment wages. Going forward, I see this system will change even in those countries. Uh, India anyway is a big population, and whatever I've discussed, India's problems are unique. But in those countries where the population is less, uh, the way since that population is less, they are not much into upskilling themselves. They are more into welcoming migrants who will actually do the work, and they will have the social safety nets and this one. But this cannot go on for long, because the moment those migrants start getting opportunities in their own country, and which is happening, not just India and many other countries, you will one of the reasons why countries like New Zealand and many others are struggling to find more people getting into, they're making their immigration policies so easier right now, right? Why? Because they need more people who can work, who can generate wealth, so that their population can be fed in some way, right? Going forward, this will change, I think, because again, it's just the way social structures are, with more opportunities coming in, and it's just by nature. I mean, given the internet, the way it's happening, by nature, even developing economies will have a lot more opportunities, and people who understand the game, they will anyway, wherever they are, they will keep on earning, and they'll do well for themselves, right? So those countries will suffer if this is a model. This is not a sustainable model the way they're doing it right now. What will happen as a result of this? Even those populations will start thinking of investing. They will start thinking of upskilling themselves. They will start thinking of increasing their competence, and that understanding of money that we were discussing, that will be like weighing down on them. right? They will have
True.
to understand that that concept has just cannot be a manifestation in our bank account. It has to be much more than that,
True.
right? So that's
In fact, I was thinking about redistribution of income. Income
yes,
taxes and taxes which government collects is a form of redistribution of income, right?
yes,
People who have more income, government takes some of that and through its welfare policies redistributes it among other people. The share market is another form of redistribution of wealth because there are people, companies who are creating wealth in the form of their companies, and small shareholders are able to invest in those shares, get benefit, and that way also it again redistributes. For a topic for maybe a future talk sometime, discussion among us could be the entire crypto thing, right? Where
yes,
now
yes,
at a global level, there's going to be redistribution of income, right?
yes,
Because there might be a billionaire who is invested in some crypto and he loses some money. Now, people who are making money could be spread out all over the world, and it could be people making just maybe $100 extra, right? But then
yes,
someone lost a billion, and a lot of people made $1,000,
yep,
$100 more, right? So
right.
that's also another
I think that can
topic
be
somewhere.
a good topic for future. The
True,
cryptos, the way
true.
you say, just our perspectives on this.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
Great, great.
Nice. It's
So
almost going to be 12 now.
yeah, that's okay. Let's just end it here. And I think this conversation should go on, like irrespective of this
Yeah.
one. We'll just randomly take up a topic and we'll discuss, right?
ठीक है.
And see. Okay.
Yes, yes.